What's cracking, guys? Your boy Daniel here from Stack Strength, and today I'm going to talk all about hydration and performance and why it's such a critical aspect that so many people neglect. I'm also going to give you guys specific strategies and tools on how to improve it so you can optimize your performance and minimize the risk of injury. Now, first of all, we're composed of roughly 50 to 70% of water. Now, most people actually know this, but what they don't know is how important this actually is. Now, according to a 2019 paper by Belleville et al., they found a 1% reduction in hydration status could potentially reduce your strength output by about 10%, which is massive. A 4% reduction in hydration status can result in a 20 to 30% reduction in physical work capacity. Now, 50 to 90% of all individuals fail to meet basic water consumption guidelines. So let's just think about that for a minute. 10% potential reduction in strength, 20 to 30% potential reduction in work capacity. Now let's extrapolate that over several months and years of your training. Man, you're really missing out on a lot of gains, not to mention the increased risk of injury if you are dehydrated. Now, we're not going to discuss the injury too much in this video. It's more so just about performance, but injury risk also goes up if you are dehydrated. Now, water acts as a transport medium. It serves a lot of different functions, including it lubricates joints, it facilitates chemical reactions, and acts as a thermoregulator. So it helps regulate your body's core temperature as well as being a solvent. Now, this drop in performance is for several reasons, but some of the reasons are a reduction in blood flow volume, a reduction in skin blood flow, a decreased sweat rate, decreased heat dissipation, increased rate of muscle glycogen utilization, so we're burning through energy a lot faster, increased core temperature, increased perception of difficulty, and so on. So when you're actually dehydrated, your perception of effort goes up. So the difficulty or the subjective evaluation of difficulty actually goes up, which again is not so desirable if you want to have high output, throughout the duration of your actual training and then subsequent training sessions moving forward. Now, there's various factors, again, that impact an individual's hydration status, such as the sport that's being played. So if you're a field sport athlete versus if you're a swimmer, if you're just a lifter, an individual's body weight, the climate that they're training in. Again, I'm here in Canada, it's Calgary. It's very, very cold here a lot of the times versus maybe being in Jamaica where it's really hot. You're probably going to be sweating a whole lot. So these are really important differences to take into account when we're looking at hydration. Individual physiology is going to play a component. Your diet composition. So how much, vegetables and how much food are you getting that have a high water content in them in general, and then also just your general lifestyle. So hydration balance, and this is something that's incredibly important that a lot of people miss when they're discussing hydration. They think it's just about water, and it's not just about water. So hydration balance refers to the actual volume of water as well as the concentration of minerals. The balance between water and minerals is extremely important when we're talking about hydration status. So water distribution throughout the body is roughly 66% intracellular, 27% extracellular, and 7% in your actual blood. Now, in their 2015 paper by Kennebec and colleagues, they stated that adequate fluid intake can dually be defined as volume of fluid from water, beverages, and food sufficiently to replace water losses and provide solute excretion. Now, this is kind of for your performance. You're in training hydration status. Now, drinking water alone, as I mentioned earlier, is not enough because we need to make sure we're balancing the relationship between the actual fluid content and the mineral content in the intracellular and extracellular compartments. So, for instance, if we are lower in minerals and we just start chugging back a bunch of water, well, now our hydration goes up. We're full of water, but then guess what happens? In order to maintain that balance, that homeostatic balance between hydration concentration, we're actually going to start pulling minerals from the more concentrated areas. So we're actually pulling minerals from the intracellular matrix into the extracellular matrix in order to balance that out. And that can actually be dangerous. So if you chug water like a bunch in excess, that can actually send you to the hospital. Now, it is a little bit more rare, but it is something to consider because just drinking water, and if you're peeing clear, a lot of the times people think, oh, I'm hydrated. And that's not necessarily the case. It's a little bit more complex. We need to make sure we have a good balance of minerals as well as water. And that is what's called your hydration status. Now, 3 recommendations from Kennebec during your actual training are as follows. Begin the exercise in a hydrated state. If you are dehydrated and you're trying to replenish and fix all that stuff, you're kind of behind the ball in the first place. And so it's not going to be the best place to be in. You want to prevent dehydration beyond 1.1% of your body mass during exercise. Now, most people probably are not going to track their actual body weight and things like that during their training, but essentially you want to make sure that you are getting a good amount of fluids in that matches the level and the type of exercise, your climate, your body weight, all of those things we mentioned previously that impact hydration status. You also want to make sure you're getting a good spectrum of minerals as well to make sure that your hydration balance is good and you're not going too low during actual training session. Next, you want to make sure that you're replenishing minerals and water loss during exercise. So again, this kind of goes in with the second point. Now, sodium and chloride are the primary constituents that balance out the concentration. Potassium, calcium, magnesium are also important, but they're a little bit less important. Now, in addition to that, a lot of those can actually be just gotten from just food, right? So from different food sources alone, you can usually get enough potassium, magnesium, and calcium to make sure that you have good hydration status in terms of just those minerals alone. Now, here's a short list of a couple of different food items that actually are very rich in potassium, calcium, and magnesium. You'll notice that spinach is very high in all three. And this is also one of the reasons why certain health professionals, or many health professionals, recommend a diet that's high in vegetables, specifically high in very leafy green vegetables, because they're very, very nutrient dense and have a good mineral spectrum. Now, ideally, you want about a 4-to-1 ratio of sodium to potassium, mixing a pinch of sodium chloride, so just table salt is sodium and chloride combined, in about 1 liter of water. This is a really great way to help replenish sodium and chloride and maintain that hydration status. Carbohydrates can also play a very important role in hydration process during post-exercise recovery. Since carbohydrates trigger the release of insulin, and insulin is going to help drive nutrients into the cell, it can also help with cellular hydration, driving some of those minerals into the cell so we get better hydrated a little bit faster. Now, water intake recommendations are going to vary, again, based on some of those points that I mentioned earlier about climate, body weight, type of exercise, things like that. But general recommendations are about 0.6 to 0.7 ounces per pound of body weight. Okay, now, if you guys don't know the math on this, let's say a 170-pound individual, we'll take that by 0.7 ounces, and that equals about 119 ounces, fluid ounces of water. Now, you can divide that by 32 because there's 32 fluid ounces in a liter, and you'll get the number of actual liters that you have to be drinking throughout the day. So in this case, it's 3.7. Now, it's really important to understand that this number can vary drastically depending on the type of training that you're doing. So the more you're exercising, the more that number is going to go up. For instance, I'm boxing. If you're boxing, it's very cardiovascularly heavy. There's a lot of movement. You sweat a lot of the times. And so you will need to replenish a lot of the lost fluids and a lot of the lost minerals. So that number can definitely go up if you're doing something that's making you sweat a whole lot. Now, it's also really important to note that if you do have a carbohydrate solution, so if you put dextrose or something like that in your water to kind of maintain a nice stable blood sugar and maintain energy levels throughout your actual training session, it's really important you don't chug it. If you chug carbohydrates, it is going to slow gastric emptying, and you do run the risk of increasing GI distress. So you want to make sure you're just sipping on it throughout the training session instead of just kind of chugging it at one point, because that may upset your stomach for some people. And the last thing you want is to go into a really heavy squat session and feel like you're going to crap your pants. But anyways, I hope that helped, guys. I hope you guys learned something on hydration and how it can improve your performance, and you guys left with a couple of key strategies you can use right away to implement better hydration strategies to improve your performance today. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next video.